Hey there guys, it's Metro, and today we are going to be making the first video in a series that is here by popular demand. In this series we are going to be talking about the core mechanics of every dangerous encounter in Mythic Plus dungeons, and alongside that I'll be giving my specific tips I've learned over hundreds of runs that I've done in order to help you guys dominate them. I'm doing this because I regularly run 15s or higher with players who just simply aren't aware of certain mechanics at all, because they've only ever done them on a difficulty where mistakes aren't punishing or where their high DPS carries them. I'd like to make these videos a place of open discussion in the comments, so I'll be giving the extent of my knowledge as a canvas for you to add your tips and tricks to, especially from those who don't focus on tanks or healing rules like me. Today we will start by looking at Hymdall, the often group-breaking first boss of the Halls of Valor dungeon. The boss is one of the more demanding in the whole of Mythic Plus circuit because his mechanics are incredibly movement-intensive and incredibly punishing, especially when coupled with dangerous affixes like Grievous and Tyrannical. As you'll see in the video, I have 3 markers down on the ground. Each one signifies 1/3 of the room that will be used to correspond to his Horn of Valor mechanic's subsequent effect of calling in Drake Riders to shoot lightning down the paths. The Horn of Valor mechanic happens frequently and does a lot of damage on its own, so be aware that it is unavoidable damage, and without regular damage reduction or big plays by the healer, you will find it to be the most dangerous part of the encounter on higher difficulties. Immediately after he does it, I like to use Consumption to give Vamp Aura to everyone on my Blood Decay, but any additional help you can give the healer should be considered, even if it's just keeping yourself out of harm. Once the actual cast happens, focus now only on your survival for the next 15 to 20 seconds. Drakes will be coming through the 3 lanes I have marked, and will start on either the right or left side with orientation as we're facing. It's completely random where they start, but once they go through a lane, that lane is then safe for the remainder of the mechanic. So the best way to handle it is to look around quickly, identify where is safe, and head right to the edge of that side. Once the lightning passes, you can then run through it. The line also shoots out tornadoes, so be sure to watch out for all 3 sets of those as well. This damage though is 100% avoidable, but it is the cause of countless wipes, especially in pugs and even on low Mythic Plus, as the mechanic is a near one-shot on almost all difficulties. While you're running around trying to survive this mechanic, the boss will do his other 2 mechanics. The main one you need to watch out for only happens to people directly in front of him. He does a frontal slash known as Bloodletting Sweep that also leaves a very potent bleed on whomever gets hit. Because of how the mechanic works, he will always hit the tank, but in the frenzy of running around trying to avoid the lightning, another major flaw I see develop is people getting hit by the Bloodletting Sweep. The best way to avoid it is to stay away from the front of the boss, but this can be hard as the fastest route out of the lightning is sometimes right through him. Instead, try to go horizontal with respect to the tank. As you'll be moving parallel to the walls to avoid lightning, it's very easy for the tank to stop short and you keep moving right through his front. This will oftentimes result in your death by getting hit by the mechanic, or at least getting the damage from the bleed. If you're on his side though, instead of directly behind the boss, you will just instead run slightly out of range of the boss instead of to your potential death. The only other mechanic on the encounter is a mechanic called Dancing Blade, which will be thrown at a location near a player. You have a moment to move out of it, and you always should. If you ever get hit by it, it will knock you back, and realize that's a mistake that you should aim to avoid 100% of the time, as it may knock you into other dangerous mechanics. Because of this, unfortunately, a group heavy on melee can be very dangerous. The only class-specific tips I'm aware of would be things like using immunities or self-heals to mitigate the damage from Horn of Valor and the subsequent lightning. So if you guys know any others, please let me know down below. Once you master these 3 to 4 repeating mechanics, you will quickly realize this encounter is, like so many others in Legion, extremely simple when done correctly, but impossible when done poorly. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and see you guys in the next video.